Hello to our freaky family. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Kandi.
And this is Sips of Crime.
So, just to let you guys know, trigger warning, this episode does involve children or rape or any other extremely explicit content. So if that's not your glass of wine and you want to skip this episode, that's perfectly okay. We don't blame you.
Yeah.
The research was hard to do.
It
but
was.
We just want to give you the warning that this is what's coming up.
Welcome back, everybody. We're super excited to have you guys here. I hope you guys have had a fantastic week. We are super excited to be back. So we do have some exciting news to announce. We have decided that when it's appropriate, when something exciting or special is happening in our lives, that we've decided to go ahead and post some bonus content for you guys. We've decided that we're going to make these kind of bonus episodes for you guys. They're going to be unedited and kind of raw, which is going to be kind of nerve-wracking for us.
Oh, but hilarious for them.
But hilarious for you.
And if you guys really love it, you know, and you want us to keep doing them, we can.
Yeah.
And like she said, special occasions like, you know, Halloween.
Yeah, definitely going to have some bonus episodes coming out for Halloween.
You know, holidays, if we go on vacation, if we ever get the time to do that.
If we ever get a chance to actually go on vacation.
But with no kids. With no kids.
0 kids are invited to the vacation of Sips of Crime.
And husbands are questionable.
Yeah, they're a maybe, like, you know, might be there, might not. But yeah, so we just think that that's going to be a lot of fun for you guys, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun for us, which is really why we started this podcast.
Yes.
It was giving us a reason to hang out and, you know, kind of getting to spend extra time alone together without children, without husbands, and just something that we could kind of do.
And we're very thankful for all of our listeners. You know, we have a lot more listeners than we thought we would have at this point. And
Thought that we had.
Yes.
Yeah. Your guys' support has been tremendous through this whole thing, and we just can't thank you enough. So we just feel like the way to say thank you is to release more content. So we have decided that we will be naming our bonus episodes Happy Hour, and we are going to actually both feature a shorter story, but it'll be 2 stories on 1 episode. So I think that'll add kind of an extra twist to it, something fun that we can do. And we'll try to keep that like really on brand for you guys. So if it is Halloween, it'll be like 2 Halloween stories, or if we do go on vacation, it'll be, you know, kind of like murders in that location or something fun like that. So we're looking forward to doing that, and we hope that you guys are looking forward to that as well. I did post a poll on Instagram, and you guys decided that you wanted those on the alternating Mondays that we currently post. So that would mean that you guys would be getting 3 episodes in a month instead of just 2. So
Fun.
yes.
So, you have a surprise for me today.
I do. I always have fun surprises up my sleeve when I have a chance. I purchased chocolate wine. And we're going to try it.
I'm down.
Together.
I'm down.
Yes. So, I did actually buy this just at the local grocery store. I didn't even have to go to, like, Total Wine or anything. It is called Choco Vine Pleasantly Sinful.
Okay.
It is the finest blend of red wine and Dutch chocolate. Normally Kandi does these, so just stick with me. On the back of the bottle, it says that it's silky smooth. This blend of Dutch chocolate and fine red wine is delicious on its own or complementing a cocktail. So I guess you could use it as a mixer.
Yeah.
What would you mix it with, though?
Kahlua.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love Kahlua.
Or some Baileys.
Or some Baileys. I love Baileys. Anytime that you give me alcohol and coffee, I am down.
Well, and chocolate and coffee, like a mocha.
Yeah. I ordered some more Bones coffee.
I'm out. I've been out. Like, well, not been out.
Well, I only gave you one small sample coffee, but
I ran out this Monday. This Monday was the last dose I had.
Yeah.
Not dose, but
dose. No, it's
pod
absolutely a
I had.
dose. Yeah, so I did actually place another order of Bones Coffee. They came out with 2 limited flavors. One is carrot cake for Easter. I bought it. I bought a whole thing.
Okay, well, you have to let me know.
I'll let you know about that one. And then they're celebrating their 5th anniversary. So they came out with a coffee called Birthday Suit.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it's birthday cake flavored. So I bought a whole thing of that. And then I got another sample pack. So I'm going to give you the like French vanilla.
Oh.
And yeah, like I think I got another Cinnabon too, which I was going to give you.
You know I love my cinnamon.
Yes. All right, back to the wine. Okay, so we're going to try this out. We're just going to sample it. This is not the featured wine for the podcast, so we are going to be opening a bottle here soon.
It looks like a watery chocolate milk.
It actually does look really watery. Cheers.
It doesn't taste as strong as it smells.
That is actually really good.
That is freaking delicious.
That is adult chocolate milk.
Oh my gosh.
I have to be honest with you. I was not expecting to like this. You could pour that over cheesecake.
You could, and I wasn't expecting to like it because it said
red wine.
The red blend or
yeah.
red wine. No. There is no hint of red wine in here. Like,
I mean, you get that hint of alcohol. I'm surprised. I'm super surprised that I actually like that.
And it really, I mean, you still, like you said, get the hint of
there's just a slight burn of alcohol,
but it's not as big of a burn as the smell.
Right. It smells more alcoholic than, yeah. Okay, that's actually really good. Choco Vine. Pleasantly sinful. Try it out, you guys. That was actually really, really pleasant.
What?
I could drink that, like, and I could put that over like cheesecake or ice cream,
or I could just drink it.
Like you said, I mean, we could just drink it. With that being said, we do of course have a featured wine for you guys, which Kandi is going to tell us about now.
So it is called Witching Hour.
Oh, that's so on brand.
It is a sweet red blend, which, if you guys listen to our previous episode and our listeners tell, I believe the back of this bottle goes a little too well with this listener's tale.
Oh, Lord.
All right, so Witching Hour, sweet red blend. One can guess, but few know the truth. Some say it's the hour when darkness is most wicked, devil does his deeds, and black magic bespokes your reason. Powerful dark arts are captured in the decadent potion. Enticing aromas of luscious ripe berries will beckon you to the indulgence. Behold, the witching hour has been bottled. 'Tis now the witching time of night. Hamlet.
That sounds like something from freaking Harry Potter.
It said Hamlet.
No, I know. I'm just telling you, that sounds something like belongs. Okay. That belongs in like.
Okay, we're not gonna pour a lot of this because it's red, so and I don't know about it.
We know Michelle's gonna like it.
Yeah, probably. You know, I can't always get the semi-sweet or the super sweet, which I don't like super sweet.
Explore your palate.
I don't like super sweet, and I like some Chardonnays, the butter Chardonnays, but reds get me, y'all.
Yeah. Cheers.
Woo! It smells red. Heck no.
Really?
Maybe it's where we just drank that chocolate.
I feel like I'm like super surprised that you don't like. I mean, this is pretty sweet.
Give me a
compared
minute.
To what
we just drank freaking chocolate.
That is true. Again, like I always say, take another sip. The second one is always better.
Maybe I should cleanse my palate with some water.
Would you like some water? I have water. Actually, I don't think I have any water. I could get you some water out of the tap.
It's okay.
Depending on how bougie you are.
I ain't bougie. All right. Second taste is not bad at all.
No, I mean, if you were to classify this as a dry wine.
It's not. It's definitely not dry.
No, you would be wrong. Like, this is definitely sweeter. Mm-hmm. And it is every bit of a red blend, as described on the label.
We're going for number 3. Hold on.
Okay.
It's actually pretty good, y'all.
I really like it, to be honest with you. And, like, the aromas are chocolatey and kind of nutty. You're getting different like notes than I am, but like I'm smelling like a little bit of chocolate and I'm smelling a little bit of nuttiness. Like I really like this.
I'm not smelling it because it smells like red wine, and I think that's what's throwing me off because I don't feel like
it smells overly dry.
No, it doesn't smell dry. It just smells like a red wine.
Well, it is a red wine.
Yeah, and that's what gets me. But it is actually pretty good.
It's actually pretty good.
It is. But don't drink chocolate wine before you try it.
No, I would say not to mix the wines.
Then you're going to have to take a half a glass and try
we do before the other one kicks in properly. I like this one.
Witching Hour.
Love it. I'm here for it. All right, so today's episode is Kandi-centric.
Yeah.
What do you have for us today, girl?
I'm going to tell you about the Taco Bell Strangler. Yes.
Grab a glass.
Grab a friend.
Let's dive in.
It all starts with Henry Wallace. He was born on November 4th, 1965 in Barnwell, South Carolina. He was the son of Lottie Mae Wallace, who was married to a school teacher, but he walked out of Mae's life once he found out she was pregnant. So Henry never knew his father.
I love the name Lottie.
It is super cute.
That's
Lottie.
So cute.
Henry's mother, Mae, worked long hours as a textile worker. She was also known to be a harsh disciplinarian, and she constantly criticized her son for even the smallest mistakes.
Aww.
Potty training for Henry was his first knowledge of hell, because if he had an accident in his pants, he was scolded and abused. The fear instilled in him with such terror that he would often go in his pants, then he would try to hide his mistake by concealing his soiled pants.
Oh.
His childhood home was said to have no indoor plumbing or electricity, that the Wallaces drank from a pump well, and the bathroom was really just a watershed with a set of chamber pots.
What year was this?
1965 was when he was born.
Oh my gosh, that is not long ago.
No, so, I mean, it shows you they were on the poorer side of
gosh,
things.
That breaks my heart about, like, the potty. I remember potty training my daughter and, like, trying to be, like, so encouraging and, like, being so excited when she did things the right way, you know, but, like, scolding your baby.
And abusing them.
That breaks my heart.
It's sad. So Henry's state-appointed psychiatrist, Carmetta Albras,
we'll go with that.
I'm murdering these names, y'all, just to go ahead and forewarn you. She would later state that his mother sought to control her son through violence, emotional abuse, and other inappropriate means. When Henry's mother felt like her children deserved to be disciplined, she would make them pick their own switch and spank them with it. I've had to pick my own switch before.
I was just about to say, my grandmother made me do that. I can't really blame her for that.
So, like, I can't really, like, sympathize with that or anything.
Yeah, no, that's a common...
Oh, you know,
it was common, at least.
Like, I've had to do that.
If you're from the South.
Yeah, true that.
Maybe people...
Maybe some people hadn't, but, like...
In the South, you picked your own switch. And if I came back with a switch that was not adequate... My grandmother would then go pick a switch, and you knew it was going to be, like, 2 times bigger than the one that you brought in. You couldn't bring in some petty switch. Or if you
picked one, like, too big, they would get a teeny tiny one
piece off of it that stung.
Yes.
I remember the switch. Okay.
So, I can't really feel bad about this whole switch deal. But
the switch is understandable.
Sometimes, if she was too tired from work, she would force her son and daughter, her name was Yvonne, who was 3 years older than Henry, to beat each other with a switch.
Okay, that's messed up. Though.
Right.
I mean, to have
you're too tired
to have your siblings
to whoop your child.
You're too tired to whoop your child.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Henry was said to never argue with his elders, even when he had to empty the family's chamber pots, which was his daily chore, or when he was forced to wear his sister's clothes.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
So you said chamber pots because they don't have, like, a running water bathroom.
No, they,
okay.
The bathroom was just really a watershed.
So the chamber pot was ultimately full of the entire family's feces.
And pee-pee,
and excrements. Yes, okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same page.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It is.
And then he was forced to wear his sister's clothes. But Some stories say that they were just simply poor, and when he grew out of his clothes, all he had was his sister's hand-me-downs, and that's what he had to wear. And then some say that they did it as punishment, and they would parade him around the neighborhood.
So there's like two different stories.
Yes. And there was one story, it was only one story that I could find, that said he witnessed a gang rape at 7, but it was only one story. So I really didn't include that in my information.
But
because,
it's just like something to keep in mind that this
like,
could have happened. It could be a reasoning.
But there's not like multiple stories of this information.
Right.
So, something happened to Henry in 6th grade that would potentially scar him for life. His father called on the phone, out of nowhere. He introduced himself and told Henry he had always wanted to meet him. He promised to stop by during the week. Henry became excited, of course, wondering what his father looked like and how he would take him with him when they saw each other for the first time. The following morning, Henry woke up early and stayed home from school so he would be there when his dad came. He watched from his mother's room and studied every car that went by. He would go on to wait the next day and the day after that, but his father never came.
Oh my gosh.
This memory pained him, and he stated his life would go on dragging by.
That's heartbreaking.
For you not to know your dad apparently called.
Yeah.
Say he's going to come by, and he doesn't.
Do we have, like, any actual, like, explanation as to the person that was on the phone was his actual father, or
no?
We're not really
that
sure.
Was the only
that was
the only
story that was told. Oh gosh, that's heartbreaking.
He attended Barnwell High School, where he was elected as student council, and since his mother would not let him play football, he became a cheerleader.
Oh.
Despite his home life, he was actually very popular in school. He had a great rapport with his peers, but he had poor academic performance.
I actually love male cheerleaders.
Apparently, it's like a really awesome thing.
Well, it's not one of the things.
I wasn't a cheerleader. You were.
Yes, I was. Shocker. But
Mm-mm.
like you guys couldn't guess that. But one of the things that I think really actually goes unnoticed, I guess, for male cheerleaders is the actual strength that it takes to actually do like the stunts and things like that they are asked to do, because I mean their sole job on the squad is to lift up these girls, and you know, I feel like it definitely goes, it's just an underappreciated position. These men are absolutely 100% athletes, and they deserve respect.
Agreed. I agree. Henry graduated in 1983. After graduating, he became a DJ for a local radio station. He would call himself the Night Rider.
Ooh.
He was actually caught stealing some records and was fired from his job after a short period of time.
Well, I don't love that.
No, but I mean, as teenagers, you know, everybody makes stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
He would go on to attend several colleges before seeing that his options were dwindling, and he chose to join the Navy.
Oh, okay.
He would spend 8 years as a sailor and traveling around the world and marrying his high school sweetheart, Moretta Brabham, in 1985. He also became a stepfather to Moretta's daughter named Tahandra. He, of course, wanted children of his own, but Moretta was not willing to bear any more children. This put a strain on their marriage, and as it went on, their sex life dwindled as well.
Aww.
I mean, that's never healthy for any marriage.
No, it's not.
Henry blamed her lack of interest in sex to the fact that she was raped as a teen.
Oh.
I look down on him for that.
Yeah.
Just because as anyone, you should not bring up that kind of past to someone or say this is why they don't prefer or that's why you don't have a sex life or anything.
Yeah.
Like, even if that was the case, let's not bring it back up.
Yeah.
Let's not resurface those feelings.
Obviously a very traumatizing situation.
Right.
For anybody. And, I mean, I think that anybody who has been a victim of rape has a very different outlook on a healthy sexual relationship with somebody that they actually do want to participate in.
When he suggested counseling, apparently she blew up. But come to find out, not long after they married, Henry began to use drugs, and his drug of choice was crack cocaine. So to pay for his drug use, he would burglarize homes and businesses. During his time in the Navy in Washington, he was served warrants for several burglaries in and around the Seattle metro area.
So they knew it was him.
Yeah, for the burglaries, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
In January 18th, 1988, Wallace was arrested for breaking into a hardware store. Following June, he pleaded guilty to second-degree burglary, which led him to 2 years of supervised probation. According to his probation officer, he didn't even show up for most of the mandatory meetings. You know, that's a good thing
start.
to do.
Good start there, buddy.
Wallace was honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy in 1992 due to breaking and entering near a naval base and other charges of breaking and entering.
That'll do it.
Due to his near-perfect service record is why he managed to get that discharge.
Okay.
Soon after his dismissal from the Navy in 1992, his wife left him. Henry, unemployed and heartbroken, moved back in with his mother and sister, relocating him to Charlotte, Mecklenburg area of North Carolina.
Oh, good old Charlotte.
Right? That crazy little area. There's a lot of stuff that happens there, as we will get into. Wallace's life would become unstable, and he was fired from several restaurants. He finally ended up as a manager at a local Taco Bell. This is when he began his heavy drug use and smoking a lot of crack cocaine. During this time, Henry dated a lot of other girls, but still kept thinking of Moretta. He got his girlfriend pregnant in December of 1992. The relationship did not last, but he became the father of a little girl in September of 1993. She would remain the treasure of his life and the only bright spot he ever had known.
Oh.
It was at this time Henry Wallace crossed over from a thief and drug user to a serial killer, letting the devil twitching inside of him that whispered these bad memories and unfulfilled dreams to finally take over.
Why on earth would having a daughter that was like the apple of his eye lead him into this terrible path? Oh my gosh, you would think that would...
drugs and the
I'm
divorce
sure.
And, everything. But if you have this wonderful daughter that...
Yeah, who needs you.
Right. You would think you would...
want to be better for her.
I mean, unfortunately, drugs do some crappy things.
It does. And
it'll alter your brain and make you someone you're not. But that's still not an excuse.
No, I mean, if the look on your child's face as a baby doesn't drive you to want to do better with your life, then I'm sorry, something is wrong with you.
Agreed. So, letting that devil twitch inside of him and finally taking over, on June 19th, 1992, Henry let himself into his girlfriend's apartment using a key he had taken from her. His girlfriend, Sadie McKnight, shared the apartment with a woman named Caroline Love, her co-worker at another local restaurant called Bojangles. Neither women were home when Henry decided to let himself in. But when Caroline, the roommate, returned, Henry gave her a kiss on the cheek. Caroline told Henry if he promised not to ever do that again, she wouldn't tell his girlfriend Sadie. Henry responded by putting Caroline in a chokehold until she was barely conscious. He then dragged her into the bedroom, removed her clothing, and raped her while continuing to apply the chokehold. When Caroline began to struggle during the rape, Henry grabbed the nearest object he could, which was a curling iron, and choked her to death with the cord.
Oh my God.
Couldn't imagine.
I mean, just like a household item, though. I mean, he.
I couldn't imagine walking in to
my own home.
apartment, seeing my friend's boyfriend, not thinking anything of it.
Yeah, like he was
and then
just
all of a
there.
sudden,
oh God,
I'm dead.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Now, of course, he was faced with any issue in a murder. What to do with the body? Henry wrapped Caroline's corpse up in the bed sheets and stuffed her into a large orange garbage bag. Dragged her out to his car, apparently unnoticed. He then drove to the city limits and dumped her body in a ditch. Sadie returned to the apartment that night and was contacted by Caroline's sister, Kathy Love. Kathy was wanting to know if Sadie had heard from her or knew where Caroline was. Caroline's supervisor had been looking for her because she missed her shift. Realizing that neither woman had heard from Caroline, and this was unusual for her not to check in or show up for work, they went to the police and filed a missing persons report. They were accompanied by Henry, since he was Sadie's boyfriend, of course.
So he went with them?
Yep.
To report her missing?
Yep.
Knowing he killed her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Investigators saw suspicious signs in the apartment. such as the furniture that seemed disrupted during a scuffle, missing bed sheets, and a missing roll of quarters, sold to Caroline so she could do the laundry. Her hamper was full, so clearly she hadn't gone out to do the laundry. Then the investigation ended there. Caroline was declared a missing person. Henry would actually go on to return to the spot where he dumped her body just 2 days later. Her body described to be decaying to the point of where she just looked like leather. Or an E.T. doll or something. He would actually return a third time and found only bones. Since Sadie no longer had a roommate, she moved in with Henry.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because, at this time, she doesn't know anything.
Right. No, that's a great situation for her to be in. Oh, my God.
7 months pass. Henry continued his life with Sadie as if nothing happened. One afternoon on February 17th, 1993, Shauna Hawk, a teen who had just returned from community college, was slipping her coat off when she heard the doorbell ring.
At her own house?
Yep. It was her manager from Taco Bell, Mr. Henry Wallace.
Oh.
According to the public records, Shauna let Henry in right away, not thinking anything of it, and the two chatted away for about an hour. Henry seemed to have no difficulty at all gaining trust from women who knew him. Of course, feeling relaxed around Henry, she didn't hesitate to tease him when he described how him and Sadie were fighting and had an argument. After talking, as Henry was leaving, he hugged Shauna and told her that he wanted to have sex with her. According to Henry, she had agreed. Leading Shauna to the bedroom, he told her to remove her clothes. Shauna was afraid and began to cry, but that didn't stop him from having sex with her anyway. She cried throughout the whole thing. Now, clearly, she didn't want to. After Henry was done, he told her to get dressed, took her to the bathroom. Here, he put her in the same chokehold, calling it the Boston chokehold that he used on his previous victim. Soon, Shauna was unconscious, so Henry ran a bath, put her body in it, went upstairs and took $50 out of her purse, then left out the door. Shauna's body was found by her boyfriend and her mother. The autopsy revealed the cause of death was strangulation, strangled by an object wrapped around the neck and used to compress the throat. Investigators interviewed families, friends, and co-workers and found nothing. In 1993, the Charlotte area, there was 122 reported murders and 350 reported rapes. God. Of course, hundreds of people were reported missing, and most showing up 24 hours later. At the time Henry was murdering victims, there was only 7 investigators working full-time in homicide. After about 4 months living his normal life, Henry went to visit another young woman by the name of Audrey Spain, who was 24 and worked with him at Taco Bell. She had just returned from vacation, and he was able to charm his way into her apartment. Of course, let's not forget, Henry was still into drugs, and it was only escalating. Of course, crack ain't cheap, and he needed money.
Oh, Lord, I bet.
Thinking that Audrey would have access to the safe at Taco Bell, he rolled up a joint and chatted with Audrey. Waiting for her guard to come down a bit, once they were done smoking, her guard was down, Henry threw her onto the ground and demanded to know the combination to the safe. She didn't know it, and he demanded to know about her personal account. But after just returning from vacation, there was no money in it. This caused Henry to become frustrated and put her into a chokehold, dragging her into the bedroom and raping her. She came to during the rape and begged him not to hurt her. He continued to rape her. Once he was done, he told her to get up and get dressed. When Audrey turned her back, he put her into a chokehold. As she laid unconscious, he tied a nightgown and a shirt into a makeshift rope, using it to strangle her to death. He put her body in the shower, washed away any evidence he could, and then put her body on the bed. On his way out, he stole her credit card.
Oh my gosh.
Investigators see the similarities between Caroline and Shauna, both workers at Taco Bell, young, black, attractive women, both killed by strangulation. But Shauna's case was considered unsolved. Caroline was considered missing, supposedly. Another 6 weeks pass. Henry keeps to the pattern. Going to the home of Valencia Jumper, a friend of his sister's. Of course, talking his way into her home, telling her he needed someone to talk to about a fight he had had with his girlfriend. After talking for a little bit, Jumper suggested he call Sadie and tell her where he is. When she turned her back, he grabbed her and choked her, dragged her to the bedroom, and raped her. When he was done, he choked her to death with a towel. Here's where his methods take a turn. He soaked her body in rum, put some pork and beans on the stove, turning it on high. He then took the battery out of the smoke detector, struck a match, and lit her body on fire.
Oh my God!
He then took some jewelry from her body and left, later pawning the jewelry. So, despite tests showing that Jumper did not die from carbon monoxide poisoning or from inhaling soot, the county medical examiner ruled that the cause of death to be thermal burns.
What?
His decision ruled to be accidental, even though the victim's injuries were not consistent.
You have a body that's being burned by a stove that was left on.
Right.
And you're going to tell me that's accidental? Hold on. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
We need more wine.
Just go ahead, because it's going to get more intense.
At this point, I don't understand how you can determine that type of death as accidental, but Please continue.
If he would have ruled her death as undetermined, it would have prompted more of an investigation and would have shown the true cause of death, which was strangulation. Along with a police investigation, possibly revealing the batteries of the smoke detector being removed, the presence of rum all over her body, the medical examiner would later find out of his error and say, quote, "It was just a bad judgment call," unquote.
Oh, like that's not just your job.
Yeah, he still remains a medical examiner.
Oh, good. I'm glad that he's still in his field.
But it was just a bad judgment call.
Just a bad judgment call.
5 weeks go by, and it's September 5th, 1993. Henry goes to visit another worker of the Taco Bell, Michelle Stinson, who was 20 years old and had 2 sons, ages 1 and 3. Once they had been talking for a while, Henry gave her a hug and told her he wanted to have sex. While taking her clothes off, Stinson said she was sick. Henry demanded to see medication for the so-called sickness, and Michelle couldn't find anything to show him.
Okay.
So Henry raped her on the kitchen floor, putting her into a chokehold, but decided to run to the bathroom for a towel. While attempting to kill her by strangling her with a towel, Michelle still moaning and gasping for air, Henry grabs a kitchen knife and stabs her 4 times in the back. Using a washcloth, he wiped the fingerprints from the glass, the phone, which was ripped from the wall for unknown reasons. At some point, Michelle's 3-year-old son woke up and came into the kitchen.
Oh, God.
Henry told him to go back to bed. Henry then fled the apartment, throwing the washcloth and the knife over a fence near the back of the apartment. Her 2 children found her body, and when a friend came to visit, the little boy answered the door and said the mother was sleeping on the kitchen floor.
Oh.
The same medical examiner determined that Michelle died from stab wounds and strangulation as a contributing cause. The police department did establish that Henry Wallace was a friend of Michelle's, which was common knowledge, and they knew she ate at the Taco Bell he worked at, but still no connection was made.
How long were they in the house with?
It doesn't say.
Oh, God.
Any of the stories I read didn't say, like, how long the kids were in the house.
But ultimately, they answered the door, and they were like, "No, Mommy's sleeping on the kitchen." Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, that one was rough for me. I mean, it's all rough for me, but that was really rough for me. At this point, there had been 5 deaths and disappearances in 15 months, and all within a 5-mile radius. The community was frightened and, of course, angry. The police department held an emergency press conference and appointed Sergeant Gary McFadden as lead investigator. 2 weeks pass, and Henry is fiending bad for some crack. With no money, and his pattern, very familiar at this point, he starts down the terrible road again. Henry gives a call to Vanessa Mack, a sister of one of the employees at Taco Bell, charming her into conversation, asking for a hug, but this time, Vanessa refused to give him a hug, so he asked for a drink. When she turned, he brought a pillowcase out from under his shirt and began to choke her. He wanted her bank card and the PIN associated with it. She gave him the PIN code, but he dragged her to the bedroom floor and he raped her. Once again, after he was finished, he ordered Vanessa to get dressed and strangled her with a towel. Leaving the apartment, he jumped into a cab, went to the bank, and attempted to get money out of the ATM, but Vanessa had given him the wrong PIN number.
Good for her.
Vanessa's body was found by her mother the next morning. Medical examiners ruled her death was by strangulation. The investigation did not make note that the victim's sister worked at the same Taco Bell.
They're still not making this connection.
No. Another 2 weeks pass, and Henry's crack addiction is the center of his life. Still no money, and the news hadn't reported anything on Vanessa's death. He went to the apartment complex of his friend's house. March 8th, Henry goes to see his friend, Vernon Woods. He had all the intention to rob, rape, and murder Woods' girlfriend, Brandy Henderson. But when he arrived, his friend answered the door. Frustrated, he told him that he would be going out of town for a while and just wanted to tell him bye. But before leaving the apartment complex, he remembered someone else lived there as well. Betty Backham. She worked with Sadie, his girlfriend, at Bojangles. Being the assistant manager, Henry thought she may have the key and combination to the safe at Bojangles so he could get the money and feed his drug addiction. Off to her apartment door he went.
This person is a psychopath. Oh my gosh.
When Betty answered the door, Henry told her that he had to use the phone, and of course she was more than happy to help her friend's boyfriend.
Sure.
Henry pretended to look up a phone number until Betty turned her back. Once turned, he grabbed her, demanded the keys, the safe combinations, and alarm code to Bojangles. Betty resisted for over 30 minutes, but finally gave in and gave him the safe combination. Henry then stopped choking her and she asked, "Why did you do this to me?" Henry told her that he was sick and he had hurt many people. Henry then grabbed her by the throat and pushed her to the floor. The pattern was consistent with dragging her to the bedroom, using a towel to strangle her till she was unconscious, taking her clothes off and raping her. Once done, telling her to get dressed and demanding the money from her purse, finishing off with strangling her to death before snatching the gold chain around her neck. But his new recklessness begins because he goes to steal Betty's TV and her car. Selling the TV and, of course, buying crack with the money, he returns to the apartment to steal the VCR and make sure she's still dead.
He comes back.
Yep.
To take more stuff.
Yeah, to make sure she's dead.
And to make sure she's perfect.
12 hours passed, and there was no time for a police investigation before Henry found his next victim. Going back to the original plan for Brandy Henderson, and knowing his friend Vernon would be at work, he pretended he had something he needed to drop off to Vernon. He gained entry into the apartment and did the normal smooth talking and proceeded to converse with Brandy until she was relaxed and he asked her for a drink, then attacking her once she had her back turned. Many things went wrong for Henry here. He demanded money, but all she had was a Pringles can full of change. This pissed him off, of course. He ordered her to the bedroom, told her to take her clothes off. This part's really sad, you guys.
Trigger warning.
Begging him to let her hold her son, he refused at first, but Brandy still begged, so he finally let her. Henry raped Brandy all while she held her baby on her chest. Of course, the baby cried, so they moved to the baby's room to stop him from crying, and he still continued to rape her. Once finished, he told her to get dressed. She put the baby in the crib, and of course, Henry grabs a towel from the bathroom, wiped the apartment down so his fingerprints were not present, and then strangled Brandy to death. The baby, still in the crib, cried loudly. He tried to give him a pacifier, which didn't work, so Henry went to the bathroom to find a smaller towel. He tied it around the baby's neck tightly, barely able to breathe. Then the baby sputtered and choked, but stopped crying. Henry then took Brandy's TV and stereo and left. He sold them for $175 and, of course, spent the money on crack. We're going to take a moment.
Yeah, I need a second after that.
I didn't even want to include it. I didn't, but it's a victim. I can't not include it.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. We're telling the victim stories, and we are...
Right, and you guys will see that, yes, it's about the person who does the murder, but we don't want the victims to go unrecognized.
Yeah, absolutely.
So...
we're going to continue.
Whew. Police were all over the place now, and the medical examiner stated that the cause of death for both Brandy and the baby were strangulation. Because the last two cases were only 2 weeks apart, they finally noticed that the two cases were similar. Finally sitting down, lead investigator Sergeant McFadden called a meeting with the detectives and went over the cases. Detectives reached back out to the families of the last three victims and asked who the women might have let into the apartment. Henry Wallace was on all three lists.
Oh my God.
March 11th, Betty's stolen car was recovered, but all the fingerprints had been wiped down from the steering wheel, gear shaft, and seat. But not from the trunk, where the handprint taken matched that of Henry Wallace.
Oh my god, so he missed that part.
He did.
He's finally kind of getting a little sloppy here.
Yes, thank freaking gosh.
Yeah.
Sergeant McFadden ran his name to see if he had any prior incidents, and of course he did, from burglary to armed rape to a warrant for a larceny charge. A citywide manhunt was out for Henry. But while detectives were busy investigating, Henry was murdering his final victim, Deborah Slaughter. Deborah used to work with Sadie at Bojangles, and Henry knew she also smoked crack. He was going to talk her into buying some with him, but she told him she needed her money for rent. He then asked her for a drink and, of course, grabbed a towel and wrapped it around her neck. Deborah accused Henry of murdering Brandy and Betty, which she had probably figured out a few hours before the police did. Henry ordered Deborah to give him oral sex, but she told him, "I don't do that. You might as well go ahead and kill me."
Oh my god, good for her!
Henry tightened the towel and asked her if she wanted to change her mind. She refused, so Henry raped her. Once finished, he told her to get dressed. Henry knew her well enough to know she kept a knife on her. He told her to empty her purse and saw the knife fall on the ground. He kicked the knife away and demanded everything in her wallet. All she had was $40, which she gave him, and proceeded to smack him across the face, screaming for the police.
Good for you.
He took the towel that was still in his hand and twisted it around her throat till she fell to the floor, kicking loudly. He tried to sit her up so it wouldn't cause suspicion to the downstairs neighbors. At some point, he shoved a sock in her mouth and tied another towel around her neck. Henry grabbed the knife he had kicked away from her and stabbed her 38 times in the stomach and chest.
Oh my god.
Henry took the $40 Deborah gave him, left, and went and bought crack. He then returned to her home a few hours later with his glass pipe and crack rocks. He smoked the pipe in her bathroom, and when he was done, threw on a Chicago White Sox jacket, a baseball cap, grabbed another butcher knife, and left. He got rid of all three once he left the apartment. The next day, on March 12th, Henry was arrested after killing 9 people. Once under questioning, he confessed to all 9 murders and actually confessed to 2 other murders before the 9.
God.
Here's a picture of Henry.
Oh. I'm sorry, you guys. This is the first time I'm putting a face to this story. He is terrifying. I mean, his eyes are just legitimately black, cold, empty.
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't give a shit.
One of the ones that he confessed to, other than the 9 that we talked about, was in 1990 to Shonda Betha. He dumped her body in a lake back in his hometown. It wasn't until weeks later that her body was discovered, and he was questioned by the police regarding her disappearance, but was never formally charged. The other was after he relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina. He picked up Sharon Nance, a convicted drug dealer and sex worker. When she demanded payment for her services, Henry beat her to death, then dropped her body by the railroad tracks. She was found a few days later. He stated he felt like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Over the next 2 years, Henry's trial would be delayed due to the choice of venue, DNA evidence from the victims, and jury selection. He went to trial on September 9th, 1996, and was found guilty on January 7th, 1997. A few days later, on January 29th, he received 9 death sentences and is currently on death row in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Good.
His attorney, Jim Cooney, gave a statement in his defense that said, "Henry Wallace's life is full of holes, and he was born into a terrible circumstances most of us can't relate to. For a while, he was able to overcome those circumstances, but then the darkness inside those holes overcame him."
Okay.
Okay, but everybody else that has crappy childhoods or crappy past life,
Sure.
they're not over here murdering and raping and strangling women.
Absolutely. That is such a cop-out.
Oh, yeah. So here's a picture of all the women.
Those are his victims.
Mm-hmm.
God.
So, let me hit you with this little next tidbit. While on death row in 1995, Henry married a former prison nurse by the name of Rebecca Torres.
You have got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you at all. They had their ceremony at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina, right next to the execution chamber, where they first met back in 1994 after his first arrest and coincidentally where he would be put to death.
Oh, good. How symbolic is that?
Right. Rebecca wore a pale green dress covered in pink flowers and a pearl necklace. Wallace wore his red prison jumpsuit and black tennis shoes.
What else the hell was he going to wear?
I don't know. I guess a freaking suit? I don't know.
I don't think you're given one of those.
You're not. You're so not. His court-appointed attorney, Isabel Day, served as the official witness and photographer.
Oh, good.
Right, and who, let's take pictures. The death row unit manager of the prison also attended the ceremony, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
They were allowed to talk for 20 minutes in the room they married in, but then had to reunite a few minutes later in another area, separated by plastic glass and bars. Then talked for another hour. Rebecca states that the ceremony was very personal and that the groom Henry can only accept or make calls once a year.
Oh, good.
Rebecca had resigned from the prison after meeting Henry and visited him every week while he awaited trial. Here is Henry and Rebecca.
Rebecca, God bless your soul.
I wouldn't want, if I worked in a jail, I ain't marrying nobody. Since his conviction in 1997, Henry had been appealing to the courts to overturn the death sentences, stating that his confessions were coerced and his constitutional rights were violated in the process.
Oh, okay.
All have went rejected and denied.
Good.
Henry Wallace still sits on death row and is now 57 years old.
Oh.
Here's a picture of Henry, who has gained a ton of weight. I mean, I guess you're in prison, you don't have much to do. Doesn't even look like the same
No,
man.
that definitely doesn't look like
That's
the same
him
person.
appealing one of his, or at one of his appeals.
Yeah. Wow.
So Henry Wallace is known as Bad Henry, an apparently criminal justice professor. We're going to say Carice Costin, if I murdered your name, I'm sorry, informs that he said, and there are more. If all are true, then he actually murdered close to 20 all around the world while he was on naval duty in various ports and calls.
Oh my God.
I did, however, find an article dated March 16th, 1994 by Christina Connor. Just read through it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Lottie Mae Wallace feels like she's dreaming, even though she has only slept a few hours since her son was accused of being a serial killer. She states the phone rings constantly from friends and reporters asking how Henry came to be charged with the killings. Lottie quoted, "It's like you're in a dream and you're eventually going to wake up. That's how it seems to me. You don't know what your children are doing, so what can you say?" Unquote. She said her son offered little explanation in the 2 phone conversations they had at this time. She quoted, "He said it was something that happened in his head and he couldn't explain it. He said he hoped nobody thought I did a bad job of raising him." Unquote. Henry's sister Yvonne stated that in the same article that she remembered Henry as a little boy and can't understand what happened either. Quote, "We feel sorry for them and the things that happened. Those lives didn't have to be taken." Unquote. She stated she received a call from one of the victim's sisters who was searching for answers, and of course Yvonne had no answer. Charlotte police apologized for not spotting the link between the murders sooner. Police Chief Jack Boger stated that if somebody could show him the evidence of a pattern of discrimination, he'd certainly fix that, and that he didn't believe it would be any different if the victims had been middle-class white women. Despite Henry's frequent calls and visits, his family said that they learned just last month, now this is 1994, in March. So just last month of April 1994, they learned that Henry had a problem with crack cocaine.
Oh, they're just now finding this out?
Apparently. His mother states Henry would have rather died than for her to find out. Every time he's done something, she was the last to find out. She said that when she talked to her son, Henry stated he felt relieved after he was taken into custody. I'm sure you were the last to find out.
Yeah,
especially
I bet so.
considering his earlier childhood where you beat the crap out of crap out of him all the time.
Good
Not
Lord.
justifying what he's done is okay, but
why
no
would
wonder you didn't know anything.
Why would he come to you with anything?
Right. A sheriff stated in an interview following the arrest that Henry calmly ate a Snickers candy bar, drank a Coke, and gave detailed information about how he had destroyed the evidence of Tashonda's death. Yvonne was planning to visit Henry the following Friday, but his mother said she would not be visiting anytime soon as of 1994, for when this article was published. She said, "He hurt me, and I just don't want to see him right now. I'd be afraid I'd say something I shouldn't say." And one little crazy fact about Mr. Henry Wallace. Y'all take a drink if you have a drink.
I have a drink.
If
Cheers.
not, prepare yourself.
Okay, I'm ready.
Henry went to Valenza Jumper's funeral with his sister a few days after the murder, even sending the family their condolences. Some articles state he had apparently been to a few of the funerals, giving family his condolences. And that is the story of our Taco Bell Strangler, a.k.a. Henry Wallace.
That one was intense.
It was.
So he went to the funerals of his
He
own
did.
victims.
Yes, and only when I was done researching and I was still just looking for tidbits of information
Mm-hmm.
that I could add or, like detail,
Mm-hmm.
just skimming. Yeah, I was skimming because I'd already, typed up my stuff and was just skimming stuff to see if there was any other thing, I hadn't caught in previous articles and stuff like that. And I found one that said he had been to funerals. So I Googled it.
Yeah.
Did Henry Louis Wallace attend his victims' funerals? And there were actually a few articles that popped up that said he definitely attended Miss Jumper's.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were other ones that said, he attended a lot of them because he was their manager.
Right.
He was their friends, and it was his girlfriend's
Nobody
friends. And
suspected him.
yeah, he attended their funerals and gave the family condolences.
God.
So that was pretty heavy.
Yeah, to say the least.
But on a lighter note, we have a freaky little family listener's tale.
A listener's tale.
Actually, one of my friends sent in, so I'm just going to tell it from her point of view because it's just her story. So, it was back in her high school days, and she had apparently left work and went to go to her boyfriend's house to get ready, to hang out with him or whatever. And it was normal that no one was home at the time after she got off work. And her and her boyfriend had a dog. Well, I guess it was really her boyfriend's, but,
It was your dog, too, at the point. Let's just go ahead and
right, every
clarify.
girl and boyfriend has the same dog.
It was your dog.
And she looked like a mean dog. She even said, when her boyfriend first got the dog or her boyfriend at the time first got the dog, that she was scared of it. She was creepy. She was a mean looking dog.
She was scary.
Well, once she got used to her, she was going to get in the shower, and she put the dog in the bathroom with her. Well, apparently she got out of the shower, and everything was fine. Everything was normal. She got out of the shower. Well, she heard footsteps outside the bathroom door. Thinking it was her boyfriend, she opened the door. No one was there.
Nobody?
No one. The dog walked out, went and sniffed around because the dog had heard it too. She said, she said the dog was at the door sniffing
alerted.
Right.
Something had alerted the dog. Oh my gosh.
Well, then the dog comes back in the bathroom. She shuts the door because, she's in a towel. She's getting dressed. And she hears the footsteps again. And she's like, oh my gosh, what in the world? And she's like, okay. So she opens the dog because, opens the door because, you know, she can let the dog out. Yeah. And she's expecting it to be her boyfriend. And the dog goes, she said when you open the bathroom door, it was just the hallway. So the dog goes from the door frame of the hallway all the way to the end of the hallway.
Oh my gosh.
To, like, the closet door.
Yeah.
And the dog just, like, sniffs the floor. Yeah. Now, still, she does not see anyone. Mm-hmm. And the dog literally stops, like, at the door frame to the closet door and just goes back and forth. Yeah. So she calls the dog back in the bathroom. She starts getting dressed again, and she hears the footsteps again. Gosh. And she's like, what in the world? And at this point, you know, she's, like, kind of freaking out. Mm-hmm. And she's probably, like, the hairs on the back of her neck are standing up and stuff like that.
I would assume.
You keep hearing this noise, and you can't, there's nothing there. Yeah. So she calls her boyfriend, and she's like, hey, are you home? And he's like, no. And she's like, okay, well, is your brother or your dad home? Like, is somebody here? And he says no. So she's like, okay, well, I hear these footsteps, da-da-da-da-da. And her boyfriend, jokingly, because there's this, like, family joke that it is this neighbor that had passed away, I guess, that the family knew. She said his name was, like, Dennis or something. It started with a D. I remember her saying that. But the family would sit there and say that they would smell cigar smoke when he was around and, like, all this, you know, paranormal stuff. And so when she talked to them and everything, they had said, or her boyfriend had said that, you know, nobody was home. It was just her and the dog. So she gets dressed really quick because she's freaking out. And all of a sudden, when she's about to open the door, there's a knock on the door. And she opens the door real quick and lets the dog out and then shuts it back.
Oh my gosh.
And she can hear the footsteps while the dog's outside. So she hears the footsteps. She hears the dog's footsteps. And the dog's not acting any type of way. Like,
yeah, like he's not freaked out.
She sounds happy or whatever. And so she opens the door and nobody's there.
Oh my God.
So she says she got her stuff. Well, she says she got her shit. And she left. She gets out of there. And she calls her boyfriend at the time. And she's like, look, I'm done. I'm out of here. Yeah. Like, I'll wait for you in the car. Like, I'm done.
Me too, girl. Girl.
So his brother actually ends up coming to the house to, like, double check the house because she wasn't opening any doors to any of the rooms or anything. And he's like, no one's here. And, you know, she's like, bull. Like, yeah. I heard someone. Like, the dog even knew someone was here. Yeah. And lo and behold, there was no one in the house, and she just heard these footsteps. The dog was alerted to the footsteps.
Well, what a crazy story. We are so happy that you're still alive. You can join our freaky little family both on Instagram and Facebook and find all of the featured photos from this episode
at Sips of Crime.
For a chance to have your story featured on one of our future episodes, send us a Gmail
to sipsofcrime@gmail.com.
And you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we would really appreciate you giving us a 5-star review because it really helps other people find our podcasts and our episodes. Thanks for listening. Stay alive.